if you are struggling with feeling like you spend more time on your phone than you wish you did, I'm always trying to reduce my digital usage. You are definitely going to listen up here on today's episode. I have an expert in this space who's going to be walking us through a really powerful process to help us minimize phone usage. All right. But in a realistic way, right? I mean, we need our technology, we rely on it. So I'm really excited for you to meet Shawn here today and learn his definition of a digital detox so that you can get started on one right away. Hey everyone, welcome back to Work-Life Harmony. It is always, you guys know you're going to want to listen up when I have a gentleman on the show because we don't usually have gentlemen guests here. But what Shawn is, we were just chatting and I realized I could probably talk with you all day long, Shawn, about all things overwhelm coming from digital, right? The
Yeah.
overwhelm that we get through our phones, through our digital devices, the 10,000 apps, the messages, the 3 portals for school and the 1 portal for this, it's exhausting. And Shawn's area of expertise is how we start to harness and manage this. And today we're actually going to be talking about something I'm excited about, which is how to actually do a digital detox without it being something where you never see your phone again. Because that's just not the reality that
Nope.
most live in as well. So Shawn, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do and who you serve?
Yeah. Well, first off, it is an honor to be on the podcast. I'm so grateful. I know I'm only the third male that you've had on the show, so I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, my name is Shawn Lemon, and I'm the founder of the Digital Organizer. I worked for Apple for 7 years, teaching people how to use their Apple products. They would buy this shiny new object and be so excited, and they would buy a membership to learn how to use their tech from somebody, and they would meet with someone like me. They called us creatives. And I saw that so many people were really overwhelmed with the digital stuff, and they would get their data transferred on it, and be totally overwhelmed by the mess. And so I started helping those individuals, and now we help businesses harness big messes because as teams are scaling and more people are added to the team, everyone's got their own organization system, and they've
Yes.
got Dropbox, Box, and OneDrive, and all of these things. And they really need to create a streamlined, cohesive system, and we help with that and project management and password management systems for those businesses. But I'm also a dad of a 2.5-year-old, and I run a business. And so I'm constantly using tech, and I'm trying to be present. And so because of that and the detox is why I ended up talking with you today.
Love that. Thank you so much. I'm curious to know, with your experience working for Apple, did you see any common themes with all the people that came in that you got to support and help over kind of why people were overwhelmed or where they were getting hung up from
Yeah.
all of this digital stuff?
Yeah. It was that there was too much and they didn't know where to start.
Too much
And
information or too many tools?
yes,
Oh, all of the above.
all of the above. So when there are too many tools, now this was 2007 to 2014. So when it first began, the App Store didn't exist. I got hired for the iPhone launch. And so there wasn't even an App Store. There were just a few web apps at that time. So we
Yeah.
got to see it all kind of expand. But the more options, the harder things become.
Mhm. And
And
isn't it interesting that everybody thinks more options is always better?
right. And they want the one app that'll do everything for them,
Mhm.
because we have this fascination, and this is just driven by the nature of our brains to want to find out information,
Mhm.
and we want the best. And so how can we optimize, and how can we make things more efficient? So it's natural that we would want an easy fix, because our brains are also wired, our bodies, to want sugar as well, even though it's
Yes.
not really great for us. We may want AI, but really it's about the system. So
Yeah. Love that.
too many options was a big problem, and then too much information. They transferred it all, and they thought that they were getting a fresh start with a new computer. But when you transfer your information, it's like no matter where you go, there you are. There's your mess. It's coming right along with you.
It's almost like that beauty of, I grew up in a military family and we moved a lot. And, in my 20s, I moved almost every year, changing apartments
Yeah,
and all that. And there's a beauty in moving a lot because you're forced to go through all your stuff. But with the ease of technology now, I mean, the latest, MacBook I got, I was just kind of startled. I brought it home and turned it on, and it was like, hey, we'll just grab everything from your other computer and bring it right over for you without me even plug. I mean, it was
right,
astounding how easy it
right.
was, but I was kind of like, I kind of wish it wasn't
Hmm.
because now I'm not being forced to go through and clean up my stuff like I did
Right.
in the old days when, you were literally like, do I want to copy this to this hard drive and then bring it over to this computer and put it over here?
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of miss those days. At the same time, I like it a little bit better for the users because there,
100%.
while you and I could start over fresh and pull over everything in a real cohesive way, not everyone had those skills or really understood how to use that. And so that's what really got this business going. Is I do this thing called a reboot. And so people would buy this new computer or their computer was messed up. And I would install a new hard drive, a new SSD, and pull over all of their stuff and help them organize and say, we need a fresh start.
Yeah.
And so this
Oh,
is the fresh start that you are really looking for. And
yes.
then I would kind of take them through that process. And then it would completely transform their experience on the machine. Yeah.
100%. So I know that you have a lot of strategies around doing a digital detox.
Yeah.
So what is your definition of a digital detox? Because I think when most of us hear it, the first thing we think of when we hear the word detox is we're cutting it all
Elimination.
out and we're not doing anything digital anymore.
Right. Right. And that's not practical. Maybe on vacation. I went on vacation one
Yes.
year. It was 2021. And we had other people on that trip with us, and we didn't bring our phones or any tech. And it was the best vacation we've ever had. It was absolutely phenomenal. And then we came back and did a digital detox, which was really limited usage of the phone. But in the end, it wasn't very practical. So
Yeah. And
it's
even I was
not,
just sharing with you, like,
yeah.
just 2 days ago, we're recording her on a Wednesday. On Monday,
Mhm.
I got a phone call from my daughter's school. She'd been hurt. I had to go pick her up. Like, I can't just say, well, I'm just not using my phone anymore
Right.
because we do need to have it for actual emergencies.
Mhm.
So, what does a digital detox look like the way you're talking about it?
So to me, it is all about eliminating things that you compulsively check.
Mm,
It's the compulsivity of it that is the part that is really driving these chemical reactions in our brain that make us want to keep checking and picking up that phone and causing anxiety. And it's just, and not having that, and we need to go back to get that hit of what was this next update or whatever it is. And that could be updates for anything. That might be your email, that
mhm.
might be social media, that might be your CRM. I don't know what that is for you, but if you find yourself trying to check something a lot, those are the things that we really need to eliminate. And when it comes down
Interesting.
to
What
it,
are some of the biggest, most common?
email, social,
Yeah.
um, sometimes actually just having websites on. So you might have access to YouTube. So not so YouTube might be part of that as well. And news. A lot of people are into news. And then I'd say those are probably the biggest ones is email, social, YouTube is that really social? I don't know. But YouTube is huge. And
Especially I'm finding with the younger generation, like with my daughter, she has no desire to do anything on social
yeah,
media, doesn't want an
yeah,
account, doesn't want to do anything, but she loves YouTubes,
yeah,
and she has people she follows and things like
mhm,
that. I'm like, oh, now I'm trying to get my head around that. And how do we put some, parameters in place
yeah,
for that? That kind of snuck
yeah.
up on us a little bit.
I would say also shopping too. So shopping can be a big one. So Amazon, I actually don't have the Amazon app on my phone anymore either. Occasionally I might still want to buy something on my phone and I use Safari to get to it. But, all those shipping notifications and just some people they just really love shopping and looking for deals and they think of something so that they get on and it feels important to try and find the best thing. Oh, now I need to figure out which one I need to get or where's the best price. And you can spend a lot of time just looking through things on your phone because I need this. And so we're trying to fill our lives with other things, instead of actually taking the action that we're avoiding.
Okay. So where can someone start if they're kind of going, oh, yeah, maybe I am checking my phone a
Yeah.
lot? What does putting a digital detox in place look like?
So the first thing that I would want someone to do is figure out, why do I want to do this? Because if you don't know what your why, let's see, you lose your way when you lose your why. That's a good little phrase for that. But if we don't know why we're doing this, then it's easy to just slide back in and we can make an excuse why we might need to put email back on our phone. So first start with that. And then from there, I would decide what the duration is. And
So how
so
long you actually want to spend on it?
how long are you going to do this?
Okay.
And then on the second part of that, what's your period going to be afterward as you're kind of integrating and getting back in and deciding what you're going to do from here. And hopefully you don't add anything back. But we'll talk about that in just a sec. And then lastly would be, where, like, you're going to create some more space by doing this. What are you wanting to replace that time with? Do you want to
Oh,
be more present with your family? Do you want to create more space for your hobbies? Do you just want to feel less stressed? Do you find that you're not connecting with your loved one or your spouse because you're both kind of staring at your phones, checked out at the end of the day? So, what are those things that you want to fill that space that you've been filling on your phone? So, yeah,
smart. It's funny you
why?
brought that up. I went through
Yeah,
this recently as we were heading back to school. And I have, my phone is set up where I do have app limits on
sure.
like Instagram in particular, where I know, Megan, if you've spent more than 30 minutes on there in a day, the app goes dark and it's like, you're out. Because my guilty pleasure is looking at Instagram reels and then sending them to my sisters. Like,
Yeah,
this is what
yeah,
my sisters and I do. So I was like, do
totally.
I really want to spend more than 30 minutes a day on this app? And that
Right.
was a number I came up with. And then I found myself, I used to do, that was kind of what I do when I'd get to school early for pickup, is be like, oh, well, I got 10 minutes to kill, pull out my phone.
Yeah.
And the second day of school pickup, I got my notification that I'd hit my limit already. And there I was at school pickup. And I was like, And then I had to stop and say, well, what am I going to do instead?
Yeah.
And thankfully, it's gotten me back to a lot more reading. So
Mhm.
I just keep my current book in my car
Yeah.
so that when I get to school pickup now, this is my book time. And I
Right.
can windows if it's a nice day and pull out my book. But I had to sit there for a moment and be like, well, then what do I do? Like, I'm just sitting here in my car. I'm bored. What am I going to do? And so I think if people are proactively deciding, here's where I want to spend that time, that's going to be really helpful too.
Right. And so that's, yeah, it's just the perfect example of figuring out what you're going to replace that time with. Because
Yeah.
in the moment when you're feeling that craving, then if you don't have something else that you can pick up that you're replacing that time with, then the excuses come in and the willpower is drained. And we only have so much willpower a day. You have the
Yep.
most at the beginning. And then the further that day goes along, the more decisions that
It's
you make,
gone.
the
Yep.
more it's gone, and then you slip right back in. So, yeah, creating all those spaces. So, what are you going to do, or what are you going to replace it with? How long, and why are you doing this? And so
Mhm.
that's kind of just that, the pre-work, and then there's the actual technical side as well that we can get into.
Now, do you have, I mentioned I set up app limits. What
Yeah.
other ideas, tips do you have for how to get our phones to support us in kind of detoxing a little bit?
Yeah. So I think that the app limits are something that I haven't seen work very often unless I've got someone really disciplined.
Okay.
So if you're really disciplined and you'll follow it, then that's great. I'm pretty disciplined and I had a hard time with app limits. And they didn't work for me because I hope you're not offended by this, but 99% a bitch, 100% a breeze. Like if you're letting the door open, then it's just really easy to slide back into it.
Well, I mean,
Really
all you
just
have to
needs
do
to
is
be
just tap a button and say, ignore
right.
limit today, and you're back in. So,
Ignore it. Right. And so
yeah.
really what we want to do is just say, I'm 100% going to do this for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
And when you commit 100% that I'm just not going to do this, and especially if you know that there's a time limit to it, then all of a sudden it is so much easier to resist. I challenge you to do this and prove me right, because I found it with diets when we were having to make some massive health changes and we had to do some serious dietary changes that were hard. When it was 100%, that was the key. If we didn't have that, there's no way we would have been able to spend that 6-month duration doing that, and we wouldn't gotten the results for my wife that she really needed to get her, Crohn's under control. So there's
So
a
when you're
huge
saying
benefit to that.
100%, are you saying go cold, like cold turkey on those apps
Yeah.
altogether? Just
In
delete
which
them off your
case,
phone?
it's saying, let's delete email off of your phone. Like, let's delete the email app off your phone, and you're not going to turn it back on until you finish that duration. And hopefully, you'll
Okay.
decide that you won't need it. And we're going to delete Instagram off the phone. And we're going to get rid of a lot of these things, because if you have a serious addiction to it and you're in and it's something that you've tried over and over again and failed with, we need to eliminate it, because if you have just that little taste, it comes right back. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have Instagram at all. It just means that you need to realize that you're having a really hard time with this right now in your life, and it needs to be eliminated from certain aspects because it's taking over control. And if you feel that that's worth taking off and changing for you, then you can decide to do that. But this is the idea of eliminating. I got rid of all the social media. I got rid of YouTube. I made the decision I wasn't going to watch YouTube videos on my phone. And I've been really good about that. And email is no longer on. And that one's really hard for me. That's my crack,
Really? See,
is
that's
is
funny. I
going back
don't.
and looking at email. It's really hard for me.
That's
Um,
funny.
but because of that, it's been really easy to stop compulsively checking my phone.
Yeah. And I bet for like, I mean, that is a perfect example of everybody's so different. Like my email app gets one of the least usages of
Mm,
apps on my phone because I know I don't, I'm old. So working from my phone is hard for me. So I'm like, I just don't want to check email on my phone. I want to be at
right.
my computer where I can actually do my email processing system and all of that.
Mhm.
But there are certainly, other apps that suck me in for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I tried, and I'd be curious to get your feedback on this, is I ended up, so I have an iPad that I don't use that often. But I love to play my logic puzzles on it. And so I decided that all of the puzzle things I like to do, I deleted them all off my phone
Mhm.
and they're only allowed to be on my iPad. And my iPad
Right.
stays in a drawer all day. And in the evening, I sit down and do a puzzle. And that's like, but there's no email on my like it's truly like a here's your here's your fun puzzle time, and kind of tried to separate my phone from my iPad that way because the iPad, lives in another room in the house. It's in a drawer. It's not lying around. I don't pick it up and use it very often.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's helped me not to have, things on my phone that might be calling to me, be like, well, let's just do another puzzle while you got 10 minutes, that kind of thing. It's
Mhm.
not easily accessible for me to do
Mhm.
that as well.
Totally. Yep. And then that just comes right back to, what do you want to fill the space with instead?
Hmm.
Is it being present with your child? Is it being able to sit in peace and quiet? Do you actually want to have a health app that's, or like a meditation app or a breath work app, that instead you actually do a 10-minute meditation, or you do a 10-minute breath work or something that makes you feel better and more centered and grateful? I mean, there's so many other things that we could fill that time with. Spending some time on the front end to figure out what we're going to replace it with is so helpful. And in dietary terms, like they usually call that crowding it out. So if you want to stop eating certain foods, instead of eliminating them from your diet, you crowd them out by doing these other things instead,
Replacing them with
re-
something else.
replacing them with something else. And so you start with all of these other things first, and then you naturally don't need the other things as much. Well, our phones though are highly addictive, like super, super addictive. I feel like it's almost an uncontrolled substance at this point, because they've figured out how to hack our attention and our focus, as most people are experiencing. So it's one of those things that I really want to be a lot more careful with, and sometimes just eliminate, like I was saying.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's interesting. You're making me rethink some of the apps I have on there that while I honor my app limits, I'm kind of like, do I even need that at all?
Right.
Maybe I just remove it.
Yeah. Do you want to hear what I did?
Yeah,
So because I'm really organized, my business is the digital organizer. I
I
was
would
able
hope
to
so.
just,
Yes.
yeah, I was able to just erase my phone and just hit, I got so mad because I was compulsively checking my phone on Sunday
Mhm.
morning when my family's like all having breakfast and I'm standing in the kitchen swiping. I just got so mad. I just hit reset, erase all content settings. I'm like, how did I get back to this place? And so I erased it. And then what I did is I just added apps back one by one as I needed them.
Actually felt you needed them. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, like, even I was really debating over the Chipotle app. I'm like, do I really need the Chipotle app on my phone? Everything was being questioned of like, do I need this? And it's like, okay, it's really nice. It's very convenient. And I'm not compulsively checking it. I'm going to add that. So I've added utilities onto my phone now, and I've got Audible and some other things. And I love listening to books. And so I listen to a lot of
Right.
books. So that's on there and my Spotify and things like that. But yeah, it's slowly adding those things back in. Now you could do, the listener could kind of go the opposite direction and start just massively deleting things.
Sure.
So if you've never done something like this before, you might want to open it up and see, is there anything really important in here that might need to be saved? Email doesn't, your project management doesn't, all of that stuff, they're saved online. So you don't have to worry about those
Right.
sorts of
Right.
things. But if you've got, I had a pottery app. So I make pottery and you take pictures and everything. So I had to back up the data from that app and then restore that one later since I went through and erased my whole phone. So it'd be probably, I still think it's easier to erase your phone if you can and then just
Yeah.
start fresh
That
and
would
say
be,
no to notifications.
yeah, I'd say that. I always tell everyone, like, turn them
Yeah.
all off, all no push note, okay, no sounds, no visuals, no banners, like
Mhm.
literally nothing, because we can program our phones to notify us if we deem it as an emergency situation.
Right.
So, like, when the school called on Monday, my phone actually made a noise. It never makes a noise. It
Right.
startled me. I'm like, there is an emergency. My phone is telling me there's an
Mhm.
emergency because otherwise it just doesn't. It doesn't make
Right.
noise. It's interesting. One thing I've done, but I think I'm going to go one step further and delete is I'm very strategic in what apps are allowed to be on my home screen and my second screen.
Yeah.
And so I move the things I'm tempted to off of my home screen so that if I am picking up my phone to grab the calculator or
Mhm.
something, I don't see Instagram going, hey, like,
Right.
come on in. Like,
Yeah.
we're right here.
Yeah.
But I've got other pages of well, I might need it. And I'm like, Megan, treat this like I would my email. If I haven't looked at it in a year, just delete the thing. Like,
Right.
there's
Yeah.
no point in even having it on there.
Yeah. So what I've done is I have my home screen, and then when I swipe to the next screen, it goes to just the app list. So every time I download a new app, I hold it down, my finger down on it, and I hit delete app or remove. And then it says, do you want to delete the app and all of its settings, or do you want to remove it from the home
Move
screen?
it from home
And I
screen.
remove
Right.
it from the home screen. So it's only my most used utilities. And then I could search for it or swipe over and scroll down and find the app that I'm looking for. But that
That's
way,
super
it's just one
smart.
extra level of intentionality
Yeah.
that I'm not seeing everything. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to give that a try. I really like that.
Yeah. So
Because
it's just
even like you mentioned the restaurant apps, like we have rewards at certain places, so I just
right.
have them. I'm like, I want to keep
Yeah.
them there. I'm not
Totally.
drawn into them.
It's
They're
so
not
easy. It's
tempting,
nice.
but
Yeah.
they could just be in a list. I don't need
Uh-huh.
them like as an
Yeah.
icon on a screen somewhere. So
Totally. Yeah. You want to make a reservation, you open up Resi or whatever, and
right.
yeah, and you can just search. You just swipe down on the home screen and then the search bar comes up and you start typing an open table at Resi. Yeah.
Oh
Very
my
easy.
gosh, this is fantastic. I'm going to challenge everybody who's listening to, you know, think about what apps do you want to delete? And especially if you've tried setting app limits and you find yourself not honoring them, then maybe the solution is just to go in and delete it. Now, have
Yeah.
you ever deleted one and then reintroduced it?
I have in the past. And then I ended up in the place that I was back in my kitchen manically swiping and like
Yeah.
wondering what I'm doing. And then I ended up erasing it again. So it's one of those things that if it ends up coming back, like it's got it, I realize it and it's got to go. But let's see, I'm trying to think of any of them that I added back. Nothing that's compulsive.
Yeah.
It's hard enough just having Safari. And so on there, and so I close out of all the tabs when I'm done, those sorts of things, and really try and keep it as limited as possible. I've been really tempted to do email again because if I'm on the run or something and it's just, but I ask myself, is it so important that I can't check this in 2 hours?
Exactly.
No, it's not. And checking email at 10, 1, and 4:30 is the goal. And somehow I slipped back into it. And it was because it was on my
It
phone.
was
I
on your
took it off for a
phone.
long time and then it was back. And somehow I ended up back in that place again. Just kind of a slow thing.
Mhm.
If anyone's quit smoking or drinking, it can be a really similar thing. It's total elimination. And then maybe much later on down the road when you're in a different place, you might be able to, introduce drinks. But some people, they just choose never to do it again. So I think it's, if you're having a hard time, I think wait for longer than you think. And then you know the solution if you want to get back out of it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Shawn. You've definitely given me a lot to think about on some ways that I can definitely reduce my phone usage as well. That's always kind of a goal I have every week is like, can I get a lower percentage of screen time from
Yes.
the week before? And so I'm going to be playing with some of my phone settings tonight and getting rid of
Cool.
some more apps out there. So thank you
Love
for
it.
that.
Absolutely.
Now, where can people find out more information, especially for any of our listeners that do, run a business or even work at a company where they might be able to benefit from your services?
Yeah. So thedigitalorganizer.com, really easy to get to. And I've got a quiz. It's how organized are you? So that'll really talk about the effectiveness of your current organization systems. And, can everyone find what they're looking for and things like that? That can have you help you really figure out your starting place. So thedigitalorganizer.com. And then if you want to know more about the detox process and kind of have a list, a checklist to go through, I'm going to have a guide for you by the time this releases that
Okay,
is
great.
what we talked about today and kind of the logic and the steps and some of the things that you might want to consider. And so you can go and download that guide. It'll be pretty and nice and easy for you to access. So that'll be at thedigitalorganizer.com/harmony.
Harmony. Oh, wonderful. All right. We'll put that in the show notes as well, everybody. So definitely I will be grabbing that. And now I'm going to have to be disciplined when we hang up here to not jump in and start messing with my phone and changing the settings and honoring what I have on my plan. But I will be reporting back to all our listeners on what I have implemented and how it has decreased my tech time. So thank you for this
Fantastic.
so very much.